The photographs scattered across Anika's bed told a story she didn't remember living. Her body, her face, but moments stolen from a life she'd never consented to share. 3 months of surveillance, entering her apartment building, buying coffee at her favorite cafe, leaving the hospital at midnight in blood-stained scrubs. Every image annotated in clean, precise handwriting. Subject demonstrates ideal isolation patterns. No family connections in London. Immigrant background creates vulnerability. Exceptional skill set makes her valuable. Recommend for Ward 9 selection. The signature at the bottom made her stomach drop. MB, Security Officer, 2247, Malik Barasa. The man currently asleep in her bed, his broad shoulders rising and falling with peaceful breaths. The man who'd made love to her 2 hours ago, whispering her name like a prayer. The man who'd told her he was falling in love with her just last night, voice raw with vulnerability she'd thought was real. She looked at the file again, the one she'd found on his laptop while searching for her phone charger. Subject has been selected. Will maintain close surveillance and report any concerning behavior. Initial assessment. Dr. Sharma shows excessive curiosity about restricted areas. Must be monitored closely. Dated 6 months ago, before she'd even started working at St. Aldrich's private hospital. Anika? She spun around. Malik was awake, sitting up, his dark eyes immediately registering what she held. His face went very still, the face she'd kissed, trusted, loved. The face of a man who'd been watching her like prey from the very beginning. Tell me this isn't what it looks like, she whispered. He didn't. That's when she knew everything. Every touch, every confession, every moment of connection had been a lie. And Ward 9, the restricted hospital wing she'd been investigating, was coming for her next. Anika arrived for her first night shift at St. Aldrich's with her medical bag, her pride, and the bone-deep exhaustion of someone who'd spent 6 years proving she deserved to exist in spaces that treated brown skin as suspicious. The hospital rose before her like a Victorian monument to old money, all marble columns and mahogany paneling, oil portraits of dead white men watching from the walls. She'd earned this position. Top of her class at Imperial College, youngest neurosurgeon to complete her fellowship at King's, glowing recommendations from consultants who admitted, only after hiring her, that they'd been skeptical at first. "You're not what we expected," Dr. Morrison had said during her interview, his Eton accent making it clear what he'd expected instead. But tonight, walking through the pristine lobby at 11:47 p.m., she felt the familiar weight of being watched, not just by the portraits, but by something more immediate. The security station sat half hidden behind a marble pillar. She caught movement in her peripheral vision. A man, massive shoulders, dark skin, eyes that tracked her progress across the lobby with professional precision. She'd seen plenty of security guards in hospitals. This one moved differently, stood differently. The way he held himself spoke of military training, not mall cop certification. Their eyes met for half a second. Something electric passed between them, recognition, though they'd never met. He saw her, not as a diversity hire or an outsider, but as someone who understood what it meant to be watched in spaces that didn't want you. She looked away first, heading toward the elevators, feeling his gaze follow her like heat. The hospital at night was a different beast. The wealthy daytime patients with their private rooms and designer hospital gowns disappeared, replaced by the desperate cases, the emergencies, the people who couldn't afford to be picky about when they needed saving. Anika preferred night shifts. Less performance, more medicine. She changed into scrubs in the women's locker room, pulling her thick black hair into a tight bun. Her hands were steady despite only 3 hours of sleep. Steady hands had gotten her here. Steady hands and a stubborn refusal to disappear. The night supervisor, Nurse Chen, greeted her with professional warmth. "Dr. Sharma, good to have you. Quiet night so far, but you're on call for neurology emergencies. Dr. Patterson left notes on 2 post-op patients you should check." "Of course. Which ward?" 7 and 9. 9 requires biometric clearance. Check with security if your badge doesn't work. Anika noticed the slight pause before 9. The way Nurse Chen's eyes didn't quite meet hers when she said it. "What's in Ward 9? Anika asked casually. "Long-term care, very private patients. You probably won't need to go there tonight." Which wasn't really an answer at all. 2 hours into her shift, Anika found herself standing at the corridor leading to Ward 9. The door was different from the others, reinforced with a biometric scanner that glowed red when she approached. She tried her badge anyway. Denied. She stood there longer than necessary, studying the lock mechanism, the camera positioned above it, the subtle way the corridor seemed designed to discourage curiosity. Her neurosurgeon brain cataloged details automatically. No windows, soundproofed walls, air handling systems separate from the rest of the building. "You're looking at things you shouldn't." The voice came from directly behind her, deep, accented with the rhythmic lilt of East African English. Anika spun around. The security guard from the lobby stood less than 3 feet away. Up close, he was even more imposing, 6'3" easily, with shoulders that strained against his uniform shirt. His face was all sharp angles and watchful intelligence, dark eyes that saw everything. A thin scar cut through his left eyebrow. "I'm a neurosurgeon," Anika said, recovering quickly. "Looking at things is literally my job." "Ward 9 isn't your job." He moved slightly, positioning himself between her and the door without making it obvious. A protection gesture, though she couldn't tell if he was protecting her from the ward or the ward from her. "Then what is it?" "Above your clearance level." "I have senior physician clearance. There's nothing above that except administration." His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Exactly." The overhead light flickered. In that half-second of dimness, his expression shifted from professional security guard to something more complex. Warning, concern, complicity in something he didn't want to be complicit in. "What's your name?" Anika asked. He hesitated. "Malik Barasa, Security Officer 2247. Anika Sharma, Neurosurgery." "I know." Of course he did. Security would have files on all new staff, but something about the way he said it felt personal, like he'd studied her specifically. "Dr. Sharma, I'm going to give you advice you didn't ask for." Malik's voice dropped lower. "Stay visible. Work in populated areas. Don't be alone in restricted corridors. Don't ask questions about Ward 9. "Why not?" "Because disappearing here is dangerous." The words hung between them like a physical presence. Anika's heart rate kicked up, not fear exactly, but the sharp awareness of being in genuine danger. This wasn't the casual warning of an overcautious security guard. This was specific, personal, urgent. "Are you threatening me, Officer Barasa?" "I'm trying to protect you." "From what?" He glanced at the camera above Ward 9's door, then back at her. "From becoming a patient instead of a doctor." Before she could respond, her pager shrieked. "Emergency in Operating Theater 3. Seizure patient, deteriorating rapidly." "I have to go." "Good." Malik stepped aside, giving her clear passage to the main corridor, but as she moved past him, his hand caught her elbow, gentle, brief, electric. "Dr. Sharma, stay visible." She looked up at him. Something passed between them again, that same recognition. Two people who understood what it meant to survive in systems that saw them as expendable. "Why do you care what happens to me?" she asked quietly. His hand dropped. For a moment, she saw something raw in his face, guilt maybe, or fear. "Because you're the kind of person who asks questions, and questions get people hurt here." Then he walked away, leaving her standing in a corridor that suddenly felt much colder. Anika ran to the operating theater, her mind splitting between the emergency and Malik's warning. She shoved the latter aside. People needed her. A man was dying. Operating Theater 3 was organized chaos when she arrived. The patient, middle-aged, well-dressed despite the hospital gown, was seizing violently. The anesthesiologist was struggling to intubate. "Give me his chart," Anika snapped, scrubbing in with practice speed. "Head trauma from a fall. CT shows intracranial bleeding. He's been deteriorating for the past 20 minutes. History? None listed. No emergency contacts, no medical records in our system. Strange. St. Aldrich's catered to London's elite. Everyone had detailed medical histories. Prep him. I'm going in." 12 minutes later, the patient was under, skull opened, and Anika was carefully navigating the swollen tissue of his brain. The bleed was significant, but manageable. She worked with the focused precision that had made her reputation, hands moving in patterns she could execute in her sleep. Then she found it. A microchip. impossibly small, surgically placed deep in his hippocampus, the brain's memory center. The technology was nothing she'd ever seen in any medical literature. The placement was perfect. Whoever had done this was as skilled as she was, maybe more so. "What the hell?" she muttered. "Doctor?" The scrub nurse leaned in. "Nothing. Suction here." But Anika's mind was racing. This wasn't medical. This was experimental, possibly illegal, definitely unreported in his chart. The patient's eyes fluttered open. Shouldn't be possible under full anesthesia. He looked directly at her, pupils dilated with terror. "They said I'd forget everything bad," he whispered. "Why do I remember dying?" Then he crashed. Heart rate plummeting, pressure dropping. Anika moved on pure instinct. CPR, medications, desperate measures. 5 minutes of controlled panic. They got him back. As Anika sutured his skull closed, hands shaking slightly from adrenaline, she became aware of being watched. She looked up at the observation gallery. Malik stood alone in the darkened room, his silhouette backlit by the hallway behind him. He was too far away for her to see his expression, but his posture radiated tension. Their eyes met through the glass. He gave the smallest shake of his head. "Don't report this." Anika looked back at her patient, at the impossible chip embedded in his brain, at the precise surgical technique that had placed it there. Then, she pulled her phone from her scrub pocket and took 3 quick photos. When she looked up again, Malik was gone. She finished at 6:15 a.m., exhausted and wired simultaneously. The parking garage was nearly empty, her old Honda Civic sitting alone under a flickering fluorescent light. She pulled out her keys, mind already cataloging how she'd report the chip, who she'd call first, what authorities needed to be involved. The car wouldn't start. "Come on," she muttered, turning the key again. Nothing, not even a click. She'd just had it serviced last week. "Your access badge will be deactivated in 4 hours." Anika yelped, spinning around. Malik stood beside her car, appearing from shadows like he'd been waiting. "Jesus Christ, you can't just... Your apartment will be searched in 6 hours." His voice was flat, factual, terrifying in its certainty. "Delete those photos. Tell no one. Act normal." "How do you?" But she knew. He'd been watching her, watching everyone. "I'm a doctor. I have ethical obligations. You're a target. You have survival obligations." He pulled a burner phone from his pocket and pressed it into her hand. "When they come for you, call this number." Anika stared at the phone. It was real, solid. This wasn't paranoia or overreaction. "Who are you really?" "Someone who's been watching Ward 9 too long. Someone who knows what happens to people who ask questions." His jaw clenched. "Someone who doesn't want to add you to that list." The vulnerability in that last sentence made her breath catch. This wasn't just professional concern. This was personal. "Why do you care what happens to me?" she asked for the second time that night. Malik stepped closer, close enough that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes, smell the clean soap scent of him, feel the heat radiating from his body. "Because you're the first person in 3 years who's seen what I've seen. And because..." He stopped himself, visibly swallowing whatever he'd been about to say. "Because?" Anika prompted, heart hammering. "Because I haven't met anyone who looks at this place the way you do. Like, it's broken and you're going to fix it. Like you still believe medicine is about saving people." His voice was rough. "I used to think that too." "What changed?" "Ward 9. The words sat between them like a confession. Before Anika could respond, Malik's radio crackled with static. He silenced it immediately, eyes scanning the garage. "I have to go. Trust me, Dr. Sharma. Delete the photos. Keep that phone. When you need me, and you will, call." He started walking away. "Officer Barasa," he turned back. "Thank you for the warning." Something shifted in his expression. Not quite a smile, but close. "Don't thank me yet. I'm the reason you need warning in the first place." Then he disappeared into the stairwell, leaving Anika alone with a burner phone and questions that would cost her everything. She looked at her phone, at the 3 photos of impossible technology in a patient's brain, at evidence of something deeply, terribly wrong. She deleted nothing. Anika's apartment was searched exactly 6 hours and 14 minutes after Malik's warning. She knew because she watched it happen from her car, parked across the street with takeaway coffee growing cold in her hands. 2 men in maintenance uniforms entered her building. They emerged 40 minutes later with nothing visible. but she knew they'd found everything worth finding. Her access badge was deactivated at noon. The email was polite, professional. Due to an administrative review of new staff protocols, your hospital access has been temporarily restricted. You'll be contacted within 24-48 hours regarding reinstatement. She called the burner phone number. "I'm being erased," she said when Malik answered. "Not erased, contained." Background noise suggested he was somewhere public. "Can you get back to the hospital?" "My badge?" "Side entrance, loading dock. I'll meet you there in 15 minutes." "Where am I supposed to go? They've searched my apartment. They're watching." "I know. That's why you're moving into hospital staff quarters tonight." "Malik, 15 minutes, Dr. Sharma, and don't use your real phone again." He hung up. Anika sat in her car, watching her apartment building, understanding that her life as she'd known it was over. 24 hours ago, she'd been a successful neurosurgeon with a promising career. Now, she was running from forces she couldn't name, trusting a security guard she barely knew. She started the car, drove to the hospital. Malik was waiting at the loading dock, partially hidden behind a delivery truck. In daylight, he looked different. Tired, worried, almost vulnerable. He scanned the area before approaching her car. "Leave your phone in here, and your laptop." "What? No?" "They're tracking devices now. Everything you own is compromised." He handed her a small bag. "Basics. Clothes, toiletries, clean phone. We'll get you more later." "Malik, what the hell is happening?" "You saw something in Ward 9, or rather, in a patient who'd been in Ward 9. They know you saw it. They know you photographed it. Now they're deciding what to do about you." "The chip in his brain." "Not here." Malik glanced at the cameras. "Inside, I have a secure room." The staff quarters were on the 4th floor, a wing Anika had never visited. Small apartments for doctors on long rotations or consultants staying overnight. Malik led her to room 47, using a master keycard to open it. The room was sparse but functional. Single bed, desk, small bathroom, window overlooking the parking lot. Clean, impersonal, safe. "You're next door," Malik said, noting her expression. "Room 48. The walls are thin." "How thin?" "Thin enough that we can communicate without being recorded. Hospital bugs don't work through older walls. Building predates modern surveillance." He pulled out his phone, showed her a schematic. "I've mapped all the dead zones. This entire wing is relatively safe." Anika sat on the bed, suddenly exhausted. "I can't believe this is my life now. It won't be forever, just until I can find a way to get you out safely." "Why are you helping me?" Malik was quiet for a long moment, standing by the window, backlit by afternoon sun. "Because 3 years ago someone tried to warn me about Ward 9. I didn't listen. 2 days later she disappeared. No investigation, no questions, just gone." His voice went rough. "I've been trying to find her ever since." "Oh God." Her name was Dr. Sarah Chen, oncologist. Brilliant, curious. She'd noticed patients who couldn't remember their cancer diagnoses, couldn't remember treatments they'd received. She started asking questions. He turned to face Anika. "I told her to stop. I told her it was dangerous, but I didn't help her when it mattered. That's why you're watching Ward 9. That's why I've spent 3 years documenting everything. Every patient who goes in, every staff member with access, every piece of equipment delivered. I'm building a case." "Against who?" "I don't know yet. That's the problem." Malik moved closer, crouching so they were eye level. "But I know you're in danger, and this time, I'm not going to let someone disappear." The intensity in his eyes made her heart race. This wasn't just professional protection. This was personal redemption. "What do I do now?" Anika asked. "We work together. You have medical knowledge I don't have. I have access to security systems you can't reach. Between us, maybe we can figure out what Ward 9 actually is before they make their next move." "Which is?" "Getting rid of you, or worse, making you a patient." That night, Anika lay in her narrow bed, listening to sounds from the adjacent room. Malik moving around, talking quietly in Swahili on what must be another burner phone. She couldn't understand the words, but caught the tone, checking in with someone, reporting, coordinating. At 2:17 a.m., unable to sleep, she knocked on the wall. 2 soft taps, silence, then 2 taps back. "Can't sleep?" His voice came through clearly. "Too many thoughts. Want to share them?" My whole life I've followed rules, studied harder than everyone else, worked longer, never complained. I thought if I was excellent enough, I'd be safe. Anika pressed her hand against the wall. Turns out excellence just makes you a more valuable target. Yeah, his voice was soft. I learned that in the military. The better you are, the more they'll use you. Is that how you ended up here? Long pause. That's how I ended up everywhere I've been. Kenyan military intelligence recruited me young. I was good at watching people, reading situations, finding patterns. They used that. For what? Things I'm not proud of. Another pause. Things that made me very good at my current job. Anika understood what he wasn't saying. Whatever he'd done in military intelligence, it had taught him surveillance, interrogation, information control, skills you didn't learn in peacetime. Do you regret it? She asked. Every day, but regret doesn't undo damage. His voice dropped lower. Best I can do now is try to stop other people from making the same mistakes. Is that what Ward 9 is? A mistake? No, a mistake is accidental. Ward 9 is deliberate, systematic, and someone very powerful is running it. They talked for another hour, voices low through the thin wall. He told her about growing up in Nairobi, about his mother who'd wanted him to be a teacher, about the 2017 elections and the violence that followed. She told him about Birmingham, about being the only brown girl in medical school, about patients who asked for the real doctor, even after she'd saved their lives. You're extraordinary at what you do, Malik said suddenly. You don't know that. You've never seen me work. I watched your surgery tonight, in the observation gallery. That was you? I thought. She stopped. Wait, how long have you been watching me? Silence from the other side of the wall. Malik? Long enough to know you ask the right questions. Long enough to know you won't stop until you have answers. His voice sounded almost pained. Long enough to know I should have warned you sooner. Anika didn't know what to say to that. The thought of being observed without knowing it should have frightened her. Instead, she felt oddly protected. Get some sleep, Dr. Sharma. Tomorrow we start investigating properly. Good night, Malik. Good night, Anika. It was the first time he'd used her first name. She fell asleep with her hand still pressed against the wall. For the next 3 days, they established patterns. Malik would tap signals through the wall. 2 taps meant all clear, 3 meant stay inside, 4 meant emergency. Anika learned to distinguish his footsteps from other security guards, learned the times when corridors were empty, learned which cameras had blind spots. Her badge was reactivated with limited access. She could treat patients, but couldn't access restricted areas or medical records beyond her direct cases. Someone was keeping her contained but visible, proof they hadn't decided what to do with her yet. On day 5, at 2:30 a.m., Anika found Malik in the hospital cafeteria. The space was deserted, harsh fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. He sat alone at a corner table, playing chess against himself. She approached without asking permission and sat across from him. I don't know how to play, she lied. Malik looked up, something almost like amusement flickering across his serious face. Really? Really? Teach me? He studied her for a moment, then began explaining the pieces, their movements, basic strategies. Anika listened attentively, asking innocent questions, setting up her trap. Now you try, Malik said, resetting the board. Anika moved her pieces carefully at first, letting him think she was learning. Then, on move 12, she executed a classic Sicilian defense that left his king exposed. I thought you didn't know how to play, Malik said dryly. I said I don't know how to play. I never said I didn't know how to win. She captured his queen. Birmingham junior champion at 14. His laugh startled her, deep, genuine, transforming his entire face. You're a hustler, Dr. Sharma. And you let me win. I like watching you think. The honesty in his voice made her pulse quicken. The way your mind works, it's beautiful. They sat in silence for a moment, the chessboard between them like a confession. Why are you really playing chess alone at 2:30 a.m.? Anika asked quietly. Because sleeping means dreaming, and I've seen enough to make my dreams a problem. Ward 9? Ward 9, Kenya, all of it. He moved a piece absently. When I close my eyes, I see Dr. Chen. I see the patients who disappeared. I see... He stopped. Doesn't matter. It matters to me. He looked at her then, really looked at her. Why? You barely know me. I know you've been protecting me. I know you feel guilty about someone you couldn't save. I know you're carrying something heavy. Anika reached across the board, tentative, and touched his hand. And I know what it's like to be the only one who sees what's broken. His fingers intertwined with hers, large, scarred, gentle. You should be afraid of me. I am. A little. She squeezed his hand. But I'm more afraid of what happens if I push you away. They played chess until dawn, hands linked across the board, both understanding they'd crossed some invisible line from allies to something else entirely. Day 8 brought another surgery. A complex tumor resection, 6-hour procedure, high risk, the kind of case Anika lived for. She'd been preparing mentally when she noticed Malik slip into the observation gallery. Throughout the surgery, she was aware of his presence, his eyes on her hands as she navigated brain tissue with microscopic precision, his stillness as she worked through complications, his trust in her competence. When she finished, successful, clean margins, patient stable, she looked up. He was still there, leaning forward in his seat, completely focused on her. Their eyes met through the glass. He didn't smile, didn't gesture, just watched her with an intensity that made her breath catch, even through exhaustion. She found him waiting outside the surgical wing when she emerged, still in scrubs, hair escaping her bun. 3 hours and 47 minutes, Malik said quietly. You didn't hesitate once. You watched the whole time? I couldn't look away. The subtext was clear. I can't look away from you. They walked back to the staff quarters in silence, bodies close but not touching. The space between them felt charged, electric, inevitable. At her door, Anika turned. Come in? Anika, just to talk. Please, I don't want to be alone tonight. He followed her inside. She sat on the bed, suddenly aware of how small the room was, how intimate. Malik remained standing, maintaining distance like it required physical effort. Tell me something real, Anika said. Not about Ward 9 or investigations or danger, something true about you. He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I'm afraid I'll fail you like I failed Dr. Chen, that I'll make the wrong choice at the wrong moment and you'll disappear. That 3 years from now I'll be telling someone else about the brilliant neurosurgeon I couldn't save. The raw honesty cracked something open in her chest. You're not going to fail me. You can't know that. Neither can you. She stood, moving closer. But we're in this together now. Whatever happens, it's not your burden alone. Malik's jaw clenched. You're making it very hard to maintain professional distance. Good. I don't want professional distance. Anika stepped into his space, close enough to feel his heat. I want honesty. I want partnership. He kissed her. Or she kissed him. Later, neither could say who moved first, but suddenly his hands were in her hair, her fingers were gripping his shirt, and the tension that had been building for 8 days exploded into desperate need. They broke apart, both breathing hard. We can't, Malik said, though his hands hadn't left her waist. You're vulnerable. I'm supposed to be protecting you. This is what I want, what I choose. Anika touched his face, feeling the scratch of stubble, the heat of his skin. I'm not asking you to protect me from everything, just from them. This, us. This is mine to decide. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. They didn't have sex that night, but he stayed, holding her as she finally slept deeply for the first time in a week. His steady heartbeat against her back, his arms secure around her waist, his breath warm on her neck. For the first time since finding the chip in her patient's brain, Anika felt safe. Days 9 through 14 blurred together in a pattern of increasing intimacy. They worked their respective jobs, met in dead zones to share information, spent nights tangled together in her small bed or his, learning each other's bodies and stories simultaneously. Malik taught her to read security camera patterns, to spot the blind spots, to move through the hospital like a ghost. Anika showed him medical records she'd carefully memorized, patients whose symptoms suggested memory manipulation, patterns of admission to Ward 9 that didn't match any legitimate medical protocol. They were building a case, and they were falling in love. On day 13, Anika found patient logs from Ward 9. Not official records, but maintenance schedules that included room numbers and dates. 15 patients in the past 6 months, all admitted for specialized neurological care. None discharged. "Where do they go?" she asked Malik that night, spreadsheets scattered across his bed. "I don't know. That's what terrifies me. They're either being held long-term, transferred somewhere else, or dead." Yes. They worked in silence, piecing together fragments. Ward 9 operated outside normal hospital protocols. It had its own staff, its own surgical suite, its own supplier chain. Whoever ran it had powerful protection. Hospital administration knew it existed, but asked no questions. "We need inside," Anika said finally. "The only way to know what's happening is to see it." "Absolutely not. If you go near that ward, then you go. You have security clearance." "I've tried. The biometric locks are programmed for specific personnel only. I'm not on the list." "Then we need to get you on the list." Anika pulled up the staff directory. "Or we find someone who is." They studied the names. 3 physicians had Ward 9 access: Dr. Morrison, Chief of Surgery; Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, Neurologist; Dr. James Whitmore, Anesthesiologist. Morrison's too high profile. Okonkwo never works nights. But Whitmore. Malik tapped the screen. "He's an addict, functional, but I've caught him stealing medications twice. He's vulnerable." "You think he'd help us?" "I think he'd trade information to avoid being reported." Anika felt a twinge of discomfort at the manipulation, but they were running out of options. "Okay, how do we approach him?" "We don't. I do." Malik closed the laptop. "You stay visible, safe, clean. I'll handle Whitmore." "I don't like being sidelined." "You're not sidelined. You're protected. There's a difference." He pulled her close. "If something goes wrong, if I get caught, I need you outside with all our evidence. I need you able to blow this thing wide open." She understood the logic, but hated it anyway. "When?" "Tomorrow night. His shift ends at midnight. I'll corner him in the parking garage." "Be careful. Always." He kissed her forehead. "We're close, Anika. I can feel it. Whatever Ward 9 is, we're going to expose it. Together." Day 14, 11:47 p.m. Anika waited in Malik's room, watching the clock. He'd left at midnight to intercept Whitmore. Should have been back by now. 12:30 a.m. Still nothing. 1 a.m. She tried the burner phone. No answer. 1:15 a.m. She was pulling on shoes to go find him when she heard footsteps in the corridor. Wrong rhythm. Too many people. She killed the lights, pressed herself against the wall beside the door. The footsteps stopped outside her room. Her actual room, 47, not Malik's where she was hiding. Voices, low and professional. "Where is she?" "Malik said she'd be here." Malik's name, Malik's voice, but wrong. All wrong. The tone, the cadence, the casual cruelty in it. "Check his room too. She's been spending nights there." Anika's blood went ice cold. They knew. They'd always known. And Malik, the footsteps moved to his door. She heard them unlock it, enter, search efficiently. Then Malik's voice again. "She's not here. Must be working late. Find her. Morrison wants her in Ward 9 by 3 a.m. "Understood." They left. Anika stayed frozen, mind racing. Malik was working with them, had been all along. Everything, the warnings, the protection, the investigation, the intimacy, had been a setup. She'd walked into their trap smiling. She waited 5 minutes, then moved silently to the door, checked the corridor. Empty. She slipped out, heading for the stairwell, already planning her escape. Behind her, Malik's voice called softly, "Anika." She ran. Anika made it to the parking garage, lungs burning, still wearing Malik's borrowed sweatshirt over her hospital scrubs. Her mind raced through options. Call police. And say what? A hospital wing she couldn't prove existed was targeting her. Go to administration, who were clearly involved. Run and never look back. They'd find her. She fumbled for her car keys with shaking hands. The Honda was right where she'd left it days ago, covered in a fine layer of dust from disuse. "Dr. Sharma," she spun around. Malik stood 15 feet away, hands raised in a placating gesture. The overhead fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across his face, making him look like a stranger. Don't come near me. "I can explain. You were working with them the whole time, setting me up, winning my trust, getting me to..." Her voice cracked. "Oh God, I told you everything. I gave you everything." "Anika, it's not what you think." "Then what is it?" "Because I heard you." She's been spending nights there. Morrison wants her in Ward 9. You sold me out. Malik took a step forward. She grabbed a tire iron from the maintenance cart next to her car. I will hit you. I swear to God, Malik, I will. I've been undercover for 3 years. The words exploded from him like a confession. Kenyan National Intelligence Service. I infiltrated Ward 9's security to document operations. Everything I told you about Dr. Chen was true, but I wasn't just some guilty security guard. I was assigned to investigate. Anika's hand wavered. You're lying. I wish I was. He slowly reached into his pocket. She raised the tire iron and pulled out a badge. Not hospital security. Kenyan NIS credentials with his photo, military rank, lieutenant. I don't believe you. I know, but it's true. His voice was rough. I've been watching Ward 9 for 3 years, documenting everything, building a case. And yes, initially, you were part of that case. You were flagged as a potential asset, brilliant, curious, without powerful family connections to protect you. An asset. She felt sick. That's what I was to you? At first, he met her eyes. At first, yes, I was supposed to evaluate you, determine if you'd be cooperative or a threat. I was supposed to gain your trust, monitor your actions, report to my handlers. And you did. I did. No evasion, no excuses. For the first week, I documented your routines, your skills, your vulnerabilities. I reported that you were exactly what they were looking for: exceptional medical expertise, isolated social position, strong ethical principles that made you vulnerable to pressure. Anika wanted to vomit. You handed me to them. I was going to. That was my assignment. Identify suitable subjects for Ward 9's program, then stand aside while they were recruited. His jaw clenched. But then I actually met you, talked to you, watched you save that patient with the chip, saw how you refused to delete evidence even when I warned you it would end your life as you knew it. And I realized you were exactly like Dr. Chen. Brilliant, stubborn, ethical to a fault. I realized if I followed orders, you'd disappear just like she did. So I stopped reporting. I told my handlers you were uncooperative, a bad candidate, too public-facing to disappear safely. While secretly monitoring everything I did, while trying to keep you alive, his voice rose. Every warning, every precaution, every time I moved you to a secure location, that wasn't manipulation, that was genuine protection. The moment you photographed that chip, you painted a target on your back. I've been desperately trying to keep you out of Ward 9 ever since. Anika's tire iron lowered slightly. Then why did I hear you tell them where to find me? Because you weren't supposed to hear that. Malik ran a hand over his face, exhausted. I'm maintaining my cover. I have to give them enough cooperation to stay embedded. Tonight, Morrison demanded your location. If I refused or claimed ignorance, I'd blow 3 years of work and lose any ability to protect you. So I told them where you should be, giving you enough warning to not actually be there. How was I supposed to get warning? I knocked 4 times. Emergency signal. You didn't answer because you weren't in your room. You were hiding in mine. He moved slightly closer. Which was smart. Which was exactly what I would have done. You're learning. Anika's head was spinning. The logic was sound. The timeline made sense. But trust, once broken, was hard to resurrect. Prove it, she said. Prove you're actually undercover. I can't. Not without compromising the entire operation. He spread his hands. You're asking me to choose between 3 years of intelligence gathering and making you trust me. I can't give you that proof without alerting Ward 9 that I'm not who I claim to be. Then I can't trust you. I know. He looked genuinely devastated. I know, and it's killing me. Because I love you, Anika. Completely. Unexpectedly. In a way that's made me terrible at my job, because I can't stay objective where you're concerned. The words hung between them like a live wire. You don't get to say that now, Anika whispered. Not after everything. You chose me like cattle. You evaluated me for experimentation. You watched me, documented me, prepared me to have my brain violated. I was trying to save you. By using me! She was shouting now, tears streaming down her face. You're no better than them. Worse, maybe, because you made me trust you, made me fall in love with you, made me think... Her voice broke completely. Made me think I mattered for something other than my use value. Malik flinched like she'd struck him. You do matter, more than the mission, more than my orders, more than anything. Stop! Just stop! Anika threw the tire iron aside. It clattered on concrete, the sound echoing through the empty garage. I can't do this. I can't sort through what's real and what was performance. I can't... Her phone buzzed. The real one, not the burner. A text from an unknown number. We have your mother. Below it, a photo. Her mother, Priya Sharma, small and fierce and terrified, sitting in what looked like a van. Two men flanked her, faces partially visible. Anika's knees buckled. Malik caught her before she hit the ground. No, 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 no! She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Her mother, in Birmingham, safe, supposed to be safe. Another text. Ward 9, 3 a.m., or we kill her. Come alone. Tell no one. Malik read the screen over her shoulder. She felt him go rigid. They're bluffing, he said. They wouldn't actually... You don't know that. You don't know what they're willing to do. She shoved at his chest. This is because of you. Because you made me a target. Because you put my name in your reports. Because... I'll fix this. How? I'll call my handlers. Full extraction. We'll get your mother to safety. Put you both in protection. And trust Kenyan intelligence to save a British Indian woman they have no reason to care about? Anika laughed bitterly. They'll let her die to protect the mission. You know they will. Malik didn't deny it. That silence was answer enough. Anika straightened, decision crystallizing. I'm going. Absolutely not. They have my mother. I don't have a choice. They'll put the chip in you. They'll erase everything. Your memories, your personality, who you are. You'll become one of those blank patients wandering Ward 9. Then at least she'll be alive. Anika, I need you to do something for me. She pulled the micro SD card from her pocket, the one she'd been keeping in her bra since day one, hidden even from him. This has all my documentation, patient files, photos, everything. If I disappear, use it, expose them. Make sure everyone knows what Ward 9 really is. He stared at the SD card like it was a weapon. How long have you had this? Since the beginning. Since before I trusted you. She smiled sadly. Turns out my paranoia was justified. I'm not letting you walk into Ward 9 alone. You don't have a choice. She checked her phone. 2:17 a.m. I have 43 minutes. Go do whatever spy thing you do. Alert your handlers, coordinate your team, save your mission. Just promise me you'll get my mother out safely. Anika, please. She kissed him, hard and desperate and final, tasting like salt and fury and goodbye. I loved you, she said against his mouth. For whatever that's worth, some of it was real, right? All of it, his voice cracked. Every moment, every touch, every word I said to you, that was all real. Then prove it. Save my mother. Destroy Ward 9. She stepped back. And don't follow me. If you actually love me, you'll let me do this. She got in her car and drove away before he could stop her, watching him in the rearview mirror, standing alone in the parking garage, holding her SD card, looking broken. She didn't let herself cry until she was 3 blocks away. St. Aldrich's at 2:47 a.m. was different, darker. Security lights dimmed, the friendly mask of daytime medicine stripped away to reveal something colder underneath. Anika parked and walked toward the main entrance. Her hands shook. Her heart raced, but her mind was clear. She'd spent 6 years becoming the best neurosurgeon she could be. She knew brain anatomy better than anyone in this building. If they tried to chip her, she'd know. She'd resist. She'd find a way. Dr. Sharma. Dr. Morrison waited in the lobby, flanked by 2 large men in security uniforms. Not hospital security, private contractors with the flat eyes of men who'd done worse things than kidnap. Where's my mother? Safe, for now. Morrison smiled his reptilian smile. Come willingly, cooperate fully, and she'll be released unharmed in Birmingham within the hour. Refuse and, well, we'll be having a very different conversation. I want to see her first. Not possible. You'll see proof of her release after your procedure. What procedure? Memory modification therapy. Very advanced, very safe. You'll forget Ward 9, forget your concerns, forget Mr. Barassa. You'll remember a peaceful resignation, excitement about a new position in Birmingham, gratitude for your time at St. Aldrich's. That's not therapy. That's assault. It's mercy, Dr. Sharma. You'll be happy. Free of paranoia and conspiracy theories, a brilliant surgeon with a bright future, and no traumatic memories of, he waved vaguely, all this unpleasantness. Anika thought about Malik's warnings, about Dr. Chen, who disappeared 3 years ago, about 15 patients in 6 months who never left Ward 9. And if I refuse, your mother dies. You're committed involuntarily for psychiatric evaluation, stress-induced delusions, paranoia, unsafe to practice medicine. Your career ends. Your reputation is destroyed. You spend the next decade fighting legal battles you'll never win. Morrison's smile widened. Or you take the easy path. 30 minutes from now, you wake up happy and whole. Choose wisely. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but the image of her mother, small, terrified, surrounded by men willing to hurt her, kept Anika rooted in place. Okay, she said quietly. I'll cooperate. Excellent choice. This way. They led her to the service elevator. Morrison used a key card that accessed floors Anika had never seen on the display. They descended to sub-level 2, below the morgue, below the mechanical systems, into spaces that shouldn't exist. The elevator opened on a clinical white corridor. Sterile, silent, wrong. Ward 9. They brought her to a procedure room that looked like an operating theater designed by someone with no humanity. Everything chrome and white, equipment that looked medical but felt like torture devices. The surgical table had restraints built in. Anika's stomach turned. Please sit, Morrison said pleasantly. She didn't move. The contractor stepped forward, not threatening yet, but the promise was clear. Dr. Sharma, I'd prefer to do this with your cooperation, but one way or another, you're getting on that table. Anika's mind raced. Malik knew where she was. Had he called his handlers? Was anyone coming? Or had she walked into her death alone and stupid? She sat on the table. Morrison began prepping surgical tools with practiced efficiency. You know, in a different world, we might have worked together. Your skills are extraordinary. Such a waste. If my skills are so valuable, why erase my memory? Because your curiosity is dangerous. We need surgeons who follow protocols, not investigate them. He approached with an IV line. This will make you drowsy. The chip insertion requires precision. We need you still but conscious enough for neural mapping. Anika watched the needle approach her arm, thought about her mother, about Malik, about Dr. Chen and 15 other patients who'd sat in this exact spot. The needle pierced her skin. Everything went soft and fuzzy around the edges. Don't worry, Morrison's voice came from very far away. When you wake up, you'll have forgotten all of this. You'll be happy. Isn't that what everyone wants? To forget their pain? Anika tried to speak, but her tongue wouldn't work. She was floating now, aware but paralyzed, watching Morrison prepare the neural interface, the same device that had placed chips in patients' brains. The interface descended toward her skull. This was it. This was where she ended. Not as a brilliant surgeon, but as another missing person whose family would never know the truth. I'm sorry, she thought. Mama, I'm so sorry. Malik, I should have trusted. The lights cut out. Alarms blared. Harsh, discordant emergency signals that meant lockdown. In the darkness, gunfire. Close, military-grade, not hospital security. Morrison swore viciously. What the hell? The door exploded inward. Malik in full tactical gear, 3 armed operatives behind him. He moved with lethal precision, shooting the contractors before they could draw weapons, dropping Morrison with a precise hit to the shoulder that left him alive but incapacitated. Then he was at her side, removing restraints with shaking hands. I've got you. I've got you. His voice was wrecked. You're safe. Anika, can you hear me? She tried to nod, but the sedation made everything difficult. We need to move, one of the operatives said in accented English, Kenyan like Malik. Teams hit all 17 facilities simultaneously. We have maybe 5 minutes before they regroup. Malik lifted Anika into his arms. She wanted to tell him about her mother, but the words wouldn't form. Your mother is safe, he said, reading her panic. NIS extracted her 90 minutes ago. She's in protective custody in Birmingham. I promise you she's safe. Relief hit her like a wave. Then darkness took her completely. She woke in a helicopter, London shrinking below them through the window. Malik sat beside her, still in tactical gear, blood spattering his face that might not be his. You came, she managed. Always. I was always coming. He touched her face gently. I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. I should have extracted you sooner, should have told you the truth, should have... My mother? Safe. I had my team watching her from the moment you were flagged. When Ward 9 made their move, we were ready. She thinks she was rescued from random kidnappers by police. She doesn't know about any of this. Anika closed her eyes. You planned this. You knew they'd take her. I suspected. I hoped they wouldn't, but you used her as bait. You used me as bait. Silence. Malik? Yes. His voice was hollow. I could have extracted you both earlier. Should have. But my handlers wanted direct evidence of Ward 9 operations. They needed you to be threatened, needed me to catch Morrison in the act, needed probable cause for the simultaneous raids. So I waited. And your mother was taken because I prioritized mission over people. Anika felt something break inside her chest, not anger, worse, understanding. You did what you had to do for the mission. No, I did what I chose to do. There's a difference. He looked at her with devastated eyes. I chose the mission over you. Again, just like 3 years ago with Dr. Chen. Just like every time someone's asked me to choose between duty and humanity. Did you get them? Ward 9's leadership? Some. Morrison's in custody. We raided 17 facilities across Europe, 34 worldwide, arrested hundreds of personnel, seized equipment, records, financial data. It's the biggest international conspiracy exposure in a decade. But the highest level operatives escaped. The people who funded this, who designed the technology, who gave the orders, they're still out there. His jaw clenched. And you're still in danger because they know you're a witness. So what happens now? Witness protection, full identity change. You'll have to disappear. Anika laughed weakly. I was going to disappear anyway. At least this way I keep my memories. Anika, don't. Please don't tell me you love me again. Not after admitting you used my mother as bait. Not after... Her voice cracked. I can't hear it right now. He nodded, looked away. For what it's worth, I broke every protocol tonight, burned 3 years of deep cover, exposed my entire unit, put 50 operatives at risk. I'll probably face court-martial for unauthorized action. Why? Because when it came down to it, mission or you, I finally chose you. Too late, but I chose you. The helicopter banked toward a private airfield. Anika could see vehicles waiting below, official-looking. End of one life, beginning of another she hadn't chosen. I need you to do something for me, she said quietly. Anything. Don't visit me in protection. Don't try to find me. Don't make this harder than it already is. She forced herself to meet his eyes. I can't sort through what was real and what was mission. And I can't love someone I don't trust, so just let me go. She watched something die in his face. Good. She was dying too. Might as well not be alone in it. The helicopter landed. People in suits approached, witness protection probably, come to take her to whatever new life they had manufactured. Anika, Malik said as she unbuckled, one last thing. It was all real. Every moment I spent with you, every word I said, every time I touched you, that wasn't mission, that wasn't performance. That was the only true thing in 3 years of lies. Then I guess we're both victims of your choices. She climbed out of the helicopter and didn't look back. 6 months later, Anika stood in the International Criminal Court at The Hague, watching 17 defendants file into the gallery. Doctors, administrators, tech developers, government officials, all facing charges of human trafficking, illegal human experimentation, assault, conspiracy. Dr. Morrison was among them, shoulder still healing from Malik's bullet, looking smaller in prison orange than in surgical whites. Anika had spent the past 6 months preparing for this moment, learning Dutch law, reviewing evidence, coordinating with prosecutors from 12 countries. Her new identity, Sarah Bennett, consulting neurosurgeon from New Zealand, had given her enough distance to testify without immediate retaliation risk. But standing here, preparing to expose everything, she felt exposed herself. Dr. Bennett, please take the stand. She walked forward on steady legs, raised her right hand, swore to tell the truth. The whole room watched her. Judges, lawyers, journalists, victims' families. And in the public gallery, sitting alone, Malik. Civilian clothes, no uniform, thinner than she remembered, with new lines around his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. He'd cut his hair short, almost military regulation, hands folded in his lap, watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch even across the courtroom. She forced her attention back to the prosecutor. "Dr. Bennett, can you explain what you witnessed at St. Aldrich's Private Hospital in January 2025? Anika took a breath and began. Her testimony lasted 4 days. She walked the court through everything, discovering the chip in her patient, Ward 9's operations, the abduction attempt, her mother's kidnapping. She presented brain scans showing the neurological damage caused by forced memory modification. She explained in clinical detail what the procedure did. Not just erasing memories, but rewriting personality, destroying the fundamental architecture of self. These weren't patients being treated, she said on day 3. They were people being erased. Convenient people, migrants, sex workers, whistleblowers, anyone without powerful family connections to notice they'd changed. And you were targeted for this procedure? Yes. Why? Because I asked questions. Because I documented what I saw. Because I was exactly the kind of person Ward 9 was designed to silence. The defense tried to discredit her, called her paranoid, accused her of fabricating evidence, suggested her relationship with Malik had compromised her objectivity. Dr. Bennett, isn't it true you had an intimate relationship with the intelligence operative who claims to have rescued you? Yes. And isn't it possible your testimony is influenced by that relationship, that you're telling a story Mr. Barasa coached you to tell? Anika looked directly at Malik. He met her eyes, expression unreadable. My testimony is based on medical evidence, documented procedures, and first-hand experience. My relationship with Mr. Barasa is irrelevant to the facts of what happened in Ward 9. She paused. Though I will note that the only reason I'm alive to testify is because one man chose humanity over orders. The court should remember that when evaluating culpability, not everyone who participated is equally guilty. Malik's expression cracked slightly, something like pain or gratitude or both. The defense had no response to that. On day 6, the verdicts came down. All defendants convicted. Various sentences ranging from 15 years to life imprisonment. Ward 9 program officially exposed. Facilities shut down worldwide. Technology seized and destroyed. The courtroom erupted in cheers from victims' families. Anika sat quietly, feeling hollow. Justice had been served, but it didn't bring back Dr. Chen, didn't restore the 15 patients whose minds had been destroyed, didn't give Anika back the life she'd had before any of this. Outside the courthouse, journalists mobbed her. She pushed through without comment, security guards clearing a path. She just wanted to disappear again, back to her new identity, her new life in Birmingham, where she taught medical ethics and tried not to think about what she'd lost. Dr. Bennett, she knew that voice, turned despite herself. Malik stood at the edge of the crowd, not approaching, just standing, waiting for permission. Anika hesitated, then nodded once. He walked over, moving carefully like approaching something fragile. Up close, he looked worse than from across the courtroom, exhausted, haunted, bearing the weight of choices that had cost him everything. "I'm not supposed to approach you," he said quietly. "Witness protection protocols." "Then why did you?" "I needed you to know. I testified too, at my court-martial, told them everything, how I broke orders, prioritized your safety over mission objectives, compromised operational security." His smile was bitter. 6 months in military detention, dishonorable discharge. It's done. I'm sorry. Don't be. I earned it. He looked at her properly then. You were extraordinary in there. The way you testified, clear, precise, unshakable. You destroyed them. We destroyed them. Your evidence, my testimony. Partnership, like you said. They stood in awkward silence. So much history between them, so much damage, no clear path forward. "What will you do now?" Anika asked finally. "Construction work, in Nairobi. I found a company that builds community infrastructure, schools, clinics, things that help people." He shrugged. "Honest work, better for the soul than intelligence." "Sounds good." "It is." Another pause. "What about you?" "Teaching. medical ethics at Birmingham, consulting on patient rights cases, trying to make sure no one else ends up in Ward 9. Also good. More silence. Everything important trapped behind things they couldn't say. Malik? I wrote you a letter, he interrupted. Mailed it 3 months ago to Sarah Bennett, Birmingham. Don't know if you got it. I did. And Anika had gotten the letter, read it 20 times, cried over every word, put it in a drawer and tried to forget it existed. But she couldn't forget. Couldn't stop thinking about what he'd written. Loving you taught me what integrity actually means. Not following orders, not achieving objectives, but choosing the person in front of you over the abstract principle. It was a good letter, she said quietly, but not good enough. I don't know what enough looks like. She forced herself to meet his eyes. You used me. You used my mother. You made choices that prioritized mission over people. How do I trust that you won't do it again? You can't. Brutal honesty. I can't promise I won't make mistakes. I can't promise I'll always choose right. All I can promise is that I'm trying to be better, that I'm learning to build things instead of destroying them, that every day I think about you and wonder if I've earned the right to ask for another chance. Have you? No, probably not. He smiled sadly. But I'm asking anyway. Not for now. I know you need time, space, healing. But someday. If you're ever in Nairobi, if you ever want to see what honest work looks like, if you ever want to try again with someone who knows exactly how he failed you and is trying every day not to fail you again. Anika's chest ached. She wanted to say yes, wanted to forget the betrayal, the fear, the way he'd watched her and documented her and prepared her for violation. But she also wanted to remember to never again mistake protection for love, surveillance for care. I can't promise anything, she said. I know. I'm angry and hurt, and I don't know if I can love someone whose first instinct is manipulation. I know that too, but she hesitated. But I also know you saved my life. You chose me when it cost you everything. That has to count for something. Hope flickered across his face. So ask me again in a year. If I haven't shown up in Nairobi by then, you'll know my answer. A year. At least, maybe 2, maybe never. She touched his hand briefly. I need to learn who I am without Ward 9, without fear, without you. And you need to learn who you are without orders and missions. If we still fit together after that, maybe we'll have something real. And if we don't, then we'll have tried honestly, which is more than we had before. Malik nodded slowly. Thank you for testifying, for not hating me, for giving me any hope at all. Don't thank me yet. I might never come, but you might. I might. He smiled then, real and genuine and heartbreaking. Then I'll wait. 1 year, 2 years, however long it takes. I'll be in Nairobi, building things, becoming someone worthy of that hope. Anika walked away before she could change her mind, before she could choose the easy path of forgiving too quickly, of pretending betrayal didn't matter if the motive was complicated enough. Behind her, Malik stood, watching until she disappeared. Into the crowd. 9 months later, Anika stood in Birmingham Medical School, lecturing on ethics, consent, and power dynamics in medicine. Her students watched with the kind of attention young doctors gave to speakers who'd actually lived what they taught. The most dangerous medical practitioners aren't the incompetent ones, she said. They're the brilliant ones who convince themselves that violating consent serves a greater good, who believe their expertise justifies their control, who see patients as problems to solve rather than people to serve. A student raised her hand. But what if withholding information actually protects the patient? What if telling them everything causes unnecessary harm? Anika thought about Malik, about the information he'd withheld to protect her and to control her. Then you're not protecting them. You're protecting yourself from the discomfort of their reaction. True protection requires honesty, even when that honesty is difficult, especially when it's difficult. After class, she returned to her office, small but functional, with a window overlooking Birmingham's industrial skyline. On her desk, student papers, research proposals, and a handwritten letter with Kenyan postage. She'd received one every month for 9 months, never demanding, never pressuring, just updates. The clinic he was building, the crew he worked alongside, the life he was creating. Each letter ended the same way. Still here. Still hoping. This month's letter included photos. Malik in a construction site, hard hat and work clothes, actually smiling. The clinic's foundation, concrete and rebar, real and solid. His crew, a mix of ages and backgrounds, working together, building something that would help people. He looked different, lighter, like someone who'd stopped carrying the weight of all his past mistakes and was learning to walk upright again. Anika touched the photo, felt the familiar ache of want and hurt tangled together. Dr. Bennett, her colleague, Professor Okonkwo, knocked on the open door. "There's someone here to see you. Says she's your mother?" Anika's heart jumped. Her mother, she'd seen her only twice since Ward 9, careful meetings arranged through witness protection protocols. Priya Sharma stood in the hallway, small and fierce and completely herself. She hugged Anika tight. "Surprise visit," her mother said in Punjabi. "I was worried. You sound sad on the phone." "I'm fine, Mama." "You're not fine. You're lonely." Priya pulled back, studying her daughter with a mother's X-ray vision. "Whatever happened in London, you haven't healed from it. It's complicated. Love usually is." Anika blinked. "How did you? I raised you for 28 years. I know when my daughter is grieving something more than a job." Priya sat in the office chair, gesturing for Anika to close the door. "Tell me." So Anika did. Not the classified details, not Ward 9 specifically, but the emotional truth, falling for someone who'd lied to her, being betrayed by someone who'd also saved her, trying to sort through what was real and what was manipulation. "He wrote to me," Anika admitted, "every month, asking for another chance. And I don't know if I can trust him again, or trust my judgment about him." Priya was quiet for a long moment. Then, "When I married your father, everyone said he was a bad choice. Poor family, no prospects, different caste. My parents refused to bless the marriage." She smiled sadly. "They were right. He left when you were 3. Bad choice." "Mama, but you weren't a bad choice. The life we built wasn't a bad choice. And I learned that sometimes you can make the wrong choice for the right reasons, and other times you make the right choice that turns out wrong." She took Anika's hand. "The question isn't whether this man made mistakes. The question is whether he's the kind of person who learns from them." "How do I know?" "You go to Nairobi. You see what he's built. You talk honestly. You give both of you the chance to try again with full knowledge of who you are and who he is." Priya squeezed her hand. "Or you spend the rest of your life wondering what if." 3 weeks later, Anika booked a flight to Nairobi. Malik's apartment was in Kilimani, a working-class neighborhood where narrow streets smelled like charcoal fires and mandazi frying. Anika climbed 3 flights of concrete stairs, heart pounding, carrying nothing but her backpack and fear. She knocked. No answer. She checked her phone. 4:17 p.m. on a Thursday. He'd said in his last letter he worked construction until 5 a.m. She could wait, but the thought of sitting in this stairwell for 43 minutes was unbearable. She called the number from the burner phone. It rang 6 times before he answered. "Hello?" Confusion in his voice. He'd changed the number months ago, but kept the old phone for her, just in case. "It's me." Silence. Then, "Anika? I'm outside your apartment. Hold on, don't move, I'm coming." He hung up. Anika sat on the stairs, shaking slightly. What was she doing? She'd spent a year learning to live without him. Why risk that hard-won stability? Because Mama was right. She needed to know. 18 minutes later, boots pounded up the stairs. Malik appeared around the corner, covered in construction dust, work clothes plastered to his body with sweat, looking at her like she might be a mirage. "You came. You invited me?" "I didn't think—" He stopped, started again. "I'm a mess. I haven't showered. I'm filthy." "I don't care." They stared at each other across 5 stairs in a year of silence. Then Malik moved, closing the distance, pulling her into his arms. He smelled like concrete and sweat and hard work. Real, solid, changed. "You're here," he said against her hair. "You're actually here. Don't make me regret it." He laughed. That surprised, genuine laugh she remembered. "No promises, but I'll try." His apartment was small. Bedroom, kitchen, bathroom, tiny balcony overlooking the street. Simple furniture, no decorations except construction blueprints pinned to walls. A life built around work and waiting. Sorry, it's not much, Malik said, suddenly self-conscious. It's honest. Anika touched one of the blueprints, a medical clinic, detailed architectural plans. This is what you're building? Yeah, the Second Chance Clinic, free care for underserved communities. We broke ground 6 months ago, should be done in another 6. He moved beside her, pointing out features. This is the intake area. These are treatment rooms. This is surgical. I designed it based on your comments about accessible medicine. What equipment is essential? What layout reduces patient anxiety? You remembered. I remember everything you said. She looked at him properly then. Thinner, yes. Harder in some ways. The soft edges of charm burned away by consequence, but also lighter, more present. Like someone who'd stopped running from themselves. Why construction? She asked. Because it's the opposite of intelligence work. Intelligence is about taking things apart, finding weaknesses, exploiting connections, destroying systems. Construction is building. He looked at the blueprint. It's honest, direct. At the end of the day, you can see what you've made. No lies, no hidden motives, just walls and foundations and things that help people. Do you miss it? Intelligence work? Sometimes. The adrenaline, the mission clarity, the feeling of being important. He turned to her. But not enough to go back. Not when it required becoming someone who could use the people he claimed to protect. Anika felt something tight in her chest loosen slightly. I've been angry for a year. I know. And hurt. And confused. I've been in therapy. I've been trying to understand how I could love someone who chose me like a target. He nodded, not defending himself. And then I realized, you also chose me. Twice. She moved closer. Once as a target, yes. But then again as a person worth destroying your life to protect. And that second choice erased the first. Anika, I'm not saying it's fine. It's not fine. What you did, what we were both part of, it's complicated and messy and probably fucked up by every normal relationship standard. It is. But we're not normal. We met in hell and we pulled each other out. That has to count for something. Hope flickered across his face, cautious but real. So what does this mean? I don't know yet. She touched his face, feeling dust and stubble and warmth. But I came to Nairobi. I'm here. That's a start. What do you need? To feel safe with me again? Honesty. Complete, uncomfortable honesty. No protection by withholding information. No choosing what I can handle. If we do this, I need to make informed choices about everything, including my own safety. Done. And therapy, couples therapy, because this is complicated and we both have trauma. I already found someone, Dr. Wanjiru. She specializes in relationships that start during traumatic events. She has a cancellation next Tuesday if you want it. Anika smiled despite herself. You were that certain I'd come? No, but I was that hopeful. He took her hands. What else? I'm not moving here permanently, not yet. I have my teaching position in Birmingham. I have patience. I have a life I'm rebuilding. His face fell slightly. But, she continued, I can do 3 weeks here, 3 weeks there. Sabbaticals, video calls. We figure it out together, as equals, not as protector and protected. I don't know how to do equal. Then you learn. We both learn. She stepped closer, close enough to feel his heart beating fast against his ribs. I'm not the woman you put under surveillance, and you're not the man who follows orders anymore. We're something new. We get to decide what that means. I love you, said quietly, like a confession. I know that's complicated now, but it's true. I love you more than I loved the mission, more than I loved following orders, more than I loved the version of myself that could do terrible things for good reasons. I loved you too. Love you, she corrected herself. Present tense, even when I was angry, even when I didn't trust you, I couldn't stop loving you. That sounds painful. It was. It is. She kissed him softly. But maybe pain is part of it. Maybe real love requires being hurt and choosing to stay anyway. Choosing each other with full knowledge of how we can damage each other. Malik kissed her back, slow, thorough, tasting like possibility. Stay, he said against her mouth. Not forever, just tonight. Let me feed you terrible Kenyan food and show you my construction site and prove I'm learning to be someone worthy of that love. Okay? Yeah? Yeah. They spent the evening on his tiny balcony, eating nyama choma from the street vendor downstairs, drinking Tusker beer, watching Nairobi's chaotic traffic and vibrant street life. He told her about his crew, former military like him, guys trying to rebuild lives after violence. She told him about her students, the ones who reminded her why medicine mattered. I have conditions, Anika said as the sun set. I expected nothing less. We take it slow. No rushing into making this permanent. We earn back trust through consistency, not grand gestures. Agreed. We tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. No more protecting me from information I deserve to have. Yes. And we remember we're both damaged. We're both carrying trauma. We're both learning to be better. That means patience with setbacks. Always. She took his hand, lacing their fingers together. One more thing. I need you to tell me. Is this real? What we have, is it real? Or is it just shared trauma bonding us? Malik was quiet for a long moment, considering. I think it started as trauma. But trauma was just the introduction. What made me fall in love with you was watching how you handled fear, with intelligence and courage and stubborn refusal to disappear. What made me choose you over the mission was realizing you were teaching me what integrity looked like. And now it's real. Messy and complicated and built on a terrible foundation, but real. He squeezed her hand. We get to decide what we build from here. They sat watching the city lights come on, two people who'd survived hell and were learning, slowly, to build something like heaven from the wreckage. 6 months later, Anika stood with Malik at the opening ceremony for the Second Chance Clinic. Community leaders, patients, local press, government officials, everyone gathered to celebrate a medical facility built without profit motive, designed for people the system usually forgot. Anika cut the ribbon alongside Malik and the crew foreman. Flashbulbs popped, people cheered. The clinic doors opened, and within minutes, the waiting room filled with people who'd been waiting their whole lives for medical care that treated them like humans. We did this, Malik said quietly, watching an elderly woman get her blood pressure checked in the intake area. You did this. I just consulted. You designed half the facility. You're training the medical staff. You secured equipment donations from Birmingham. He pulled her close. This is ours. Later, on their now familiar rooftop spot, a flat area on Malik's building where they'd spent dozens of evenings talking, planning, healing, Anika leaned against him, watching Nairobi's lights sprawl to the horizon. Do you have regrets? She asked. About how we met? He considered. I regret that I hurt you. I regret my role in a system that dehumanized people. I regret every choice that prioritized mission over humanity. Pause. But I can't regret what led me to you, even if the path was dark. I used to think love had to be pure to be real. Clean backstory, meet cute, no complications. And now? Now I think real love is what survives when everything else is stripped away. When you see someone at their absolute worst and still choose them. When they've seen you broken and still show up. She turned to face him fully. You saw me at my most afraid. You saw me angry, betrayed, shattered, and you kept showing up. That's love. You saw me as a monster, as someone who'd violated everything you believe in, and you still came to Nairobi. He touched her face. That's grace. They kissed as the city hummed below them, two people who'd found each other in darkness and chose every day to walk into light together. I have something for you, Malik said, pulling back slightly. He handed her a key. What's this? Spare key to the apartment and to the clinic. He looked nervous. I know you're only here part-time, but when you are here, I want you to have full access to space, to work, to my life. No locked doors, no restricted areas, everything open. Anika felt tears prick her eyes. For someone whose entire relationship had started with biometric locks and forbidden corridors, this was everything. Thank you. There's more. He pulled out his phone, showed her blueprints. I'm planning an expansion. Staff housing attached to the clinic for visiting consultants. 3-bedroom apartment, full kitchen, office space. I designed it for you. Malik, you don't have to use it. You don't have to commit to anything. But I'm building it anyway, because I'm building a life I want you to be part of, and I want you to know that space exists." He looked at her with devastating honesty. "I want you to know you're not temporary. Not to me. Even if you're only here 3 weeks at a time, even if this takes years to figure out, you're permanent in my life." "I love you," she said, crying now. "I love you so much, it terrifies me." "Yeah," he pulled her close. "Me too. Every day I wake up afraid I'll do something that makes you leave. Every day I work to be someone who deserves you staying. You don't have to deserve me, you just have to be honest with me. I can do that." They held each other as night deepened. Two people who'd learned that love wasn't about perfect beginnings, but about choosing each other after knowing exactly who the other person was, including worst sins and most profound regrets. 1 year after the clinic opening, Anika stood in the Birmingham Medical School auditorium, receiving an award for her work on patient rights and medical ethics. The dean praised her consulting work, her teaching, her advocacy for informed consent. Malik sat in the audience, having flown in 2 days earlier. He wore a suit, rare for him now, he preferred work clothes, and looked proud and slightly uncomfortable in the formal setting. After the ceremony, at the reception, her colleagues circulated, networking and congratulating each other. Anika found Malik by the windows, looking out at the city where her nightmare had started. "You okay?" she asked. "Just thinking. This is where it happened. Where you worked at St. Aldrich's, where Ward 9 existed, where I first watched you. It's different now. St. Aldrich's is under new management. Ward 9 is permanently closed. We changed things." "You changed things. I just followed your lead." He turned to her. "I'm proud of you. Everything you've built from what happened. The teaching, the advocacy, the clinic. You took trauma and turned it into purpose. We both did. Maybe," he smiled. "I'm better with concrete than philosophy. Good thing I'm good with both." They stood together, watching Birmingham's lights, two people who'd survived a place that tried to destroy them and had built something better from the rubble. "I have a question," Malik said quietly. "Yeah? I know we said we'd take it slow. I know we're still figuring things out, but..." He pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside, a simple ring, no diamond, just a band of Kenyan gold with an engraving she couldn't quite read. "I'm not asking you to marry me right now. I'm asking if someday, when we're both ready, when we've done the work and built the trust, you'd consider building something permanent with me." Anika's breath caught. "What does the engraving say?" "Kwa haki na ukweli," Swahili. It means, with justice and truth, because that's what we built this on. That's what we'll keep building on. She looked at the ring, at him, at the future he was offering, messy and complicated and real. "Ask me in 6 months," she said. "After we finish the staff housing, after we've done another cycle of therapy, after we're both certain this isn't just trauma bonding or guilt or fear of being alone." He nodded, not disappointed. 6 months. "But keep the ring. Because in 6 months, my answer is probably going to be yes." His smile could have lit up Birmingham. "Yeah? Yeah." She kissed him. "We're doing this right. Slowly, honestly, with full knowledge of who we are and what we're capable of. And when we get there, when we're both ready, we're going to build something incredible. We already are. Then we'll build more." They left the reception early, walking through Birmingham streets hand in hand, two people who'd learned that the best love stories aren't about perfect beginnings, but about choosing each other again and again, with eyes wide open to both beauty and damage. The staff housing stood complete beside the Second Chance Clinic, a 3-bedroom apartment with office space, full kitchen, and a rooftop garden Malik had built despite Anika saying it was unnecessary. "You'll use it," he'd insisted correctly. Anika had moved in 3 months ago, keeping her teaching position in Birmingham but shifting to remote work and intensive on-site sessions. The arrangement worked. She split time between continents, teaching British medical students about ethics while training Kenyan medical staff in advanced surgical techniques. Today, the clinic was hosting a celebration, 2 years since opening, over 15,000 patients served, 0 fees charged. Community leaders gave speeches, patients shared testimonials. The local MP promised government support. Afterward, on the rooftop garden, Malik found Anika sitting among the herb boxes he'd built, watching the sunset. "Big day," he said, sitting beside her. "Really big. We're doing something good here. We're doing something great." He took her hand. "Remember 6 months ago when I asked you to think about making this permanent?" "I remember. And you said ask you later, after we'd done the work?" "I did say that." "Well?" He pulled out the ring box again, hands shaking slightly. "We've done the work. 18 months of therapy. Built a life that works across continents. Learned to communicate honestly even when it's hard. Made mistakes and forgave them. Built something real. We have. So I'm asking, Anika Sharma, will you marry me? Not because of trauma or guilt or fear, but because I love you and I want to spend my life building things with you. Clinics and homes and futures and family, all of it. With you." Anika looked at the ring. Kenyan gold, Kwahaki na Ukweli, justice and truth. She thought about the terrified woman who'd been targeted by Ward 9, the angry woman who'd testified at The Hague, the slowly healing woman who'd come to Nairobi taking a chance. She thought about who she'd become, stronger, wiser, more whole. "Yes," she said, "on one condition. Anything. We write our own vows. I want everyone to know what we're promising, not the standard version, but the real version. The one about choosing each other after seeing the worst, about building love on honesty, about being partners in every sense. Deal." He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. He'd gotten her size from a ring she'd left behind months ago, typical Malik planning ahead. They kissed as the sun set over Nairobi, two people who'd found each other in the worst circumstances and built the best life from it. "I love you," she said against his mouth. "I love you too, always have, even when I didn't deserve to. You deserve it now. Working on continuing to deserve it every day." Small ceremony on the clinic rooftop. 50 people, family, friends, the construction crew, medical staff, patients whose lives had been changed. Anika wore white, Malik wore traditional Kenyan formal wear, and both of them cried through vows they'd written together. Anika spoke first. "I promise to be honest even when it's uncomfortable, to trust you with my full self, my strength and my fear, to remember that you seeing me at my worst and choosing me anyway is what love means, to build a life where we're equals, partners, teammates in everything." Malik's turn. "I promise to earn your trust every day, to choose you over duty, mission, and every competing priority, to be honest about my past while building a better future, to see you not as someone to protect, but as someone to stand beside, to love you knowing exactly who you are and who I am, and choosing us anyway." Everyone cheered. Her mother cried. His crew whistled and hollered. They kissed, officially married, two people who'd survived hell and built heaven from the ashes. At the reception, dancing spilled out into the street. Nairobi embraced the celebration. Neighbors brought food, strangers joined the party, music played until 3 a.m. It was chaotic and joyful and perfect. Late that night, when the last guests had left and the city had quieted, Anika and Malik stood on their rooftop garden looking out at their life. "We did it," she said. "We actually did it. Built a clinic, a life, a marriage." He pulled her close. "Not bad for two people who started as surveillance target and intelligence operative. We're a better story now. The best story, because we earned it." They stood in comfortable silence, understanding that their love story wasn't remarkable because it was easy. It was remarkable because it was hard, because they'd seen each other at their absolute worst and chosen each other anyway, because they'd built something real on a foundation of honesty after starting with lies. "What now?" Anika asked. "Now we keep building." Malik gestured at the clinic below, the neighborhood around them, the future stretching ahead. "More clinics, maybe kids someday. Definitely more of this, us together, choosing each other every day." "Sounds perfect." "It won't be. We'll fight, make mistakes, struggle." "I know, but we'll do it honestly, as equals, as partners who chose each other with full knowledge of our damage and capacity for harm." "Yeah." He kissed her forehead. "We will." They went inside their home, built on truth, sustained by choice, made holy by the daily decision to love each other despite and because of everything they'd survived, ready to build whatever came next together. 5 years later, Anika stood in a lecture hall at the International Medical Ethics Conference in Geneva, presenting her keynote, Informed Consent in the Age of Neurotechnology, Lessons from Ward 9. The case had become landmark. Her testimony had changed international law, established new protocols for neurological procedures, criminalized non-consensual memory modification. Medical students worldwide studied it, policymakers referenced it, survivors of similar programs found validation through it. But the real impact was quieter. Hundreds of people who'd been targeted by programs like Ward 9 and survived, who testified, sought justice, rebuilt lives, who refused to disappear. After her presentation, a young woman approached, medical student, nervous, holding a worn copy of Anika's paper. Dr. Sharma, I just wanted to say thank you. Your work saved my mother. She was being treated at a facility in Romania that was doing memory modification. Your research helped us identify what was happening. We got her out. Anika felt the familiar ache, joy and pain mixed together. How is she now? Better? In therapy? Remembering who she was before they tried to erase her? The woman smiled. And I'm studying neurosurgery because of you. I want to help people the way you did. Then pay it forward. Treat patients like people, not problems. Ask for consent, always, and speak up when you see something wrong, even when it costs you. After the conference, Anika flew home to Nairobi. Home, not Birmingham anymore, though she still taught there remotely. Nairobi was home now. The clinic, the apartment, the life she'd built with Malik. She found him at the construction site for their 4th clinic, this one in a rural area 3 hours outside the city. He was teaching local workers advanced techniques, patient and thorough, wearing a hard hat with their company logo, Second Chance Construction, Building Hope. How was Geneva? He asked, kissing her in greeting. Good, intense. I met a woman whose mother we helped save. That's what it's about. The individual lives. Yeah, they drove back. To the city together, talking about the usual things, clinic operations, staffing needs, the fostering application they'd submitted. They'd decided against biological children, choosing instead to provide home for kids who needed one. Normal life, good life, life they'd built together. That night in their bed, Malik traced the scar on Anika's wrist, the one from her IV line in Ward 9, faint now but never quite fading. Do you ever think about how it started? He asked quietly. Sometimes, usually when I'm teaching, using it as an example of how badly medicine can go wrong. Regrets? She thought about it. I regret the trauma, the fear, what it cost us both. Pause. But I don't regret meeting you, even in those circumstances, because look what we built from it. We built something good. We built something great. She kissed him. We took the worst thing that ever happened to us and made it the foundation for the best life we could imagine. That's not nothing. That's everything. They held each other in comfortable silence, two people who'd learned that love wasn't about perfect origins. It was about daily choice, about seeing each other fully and choosing stay, about building something real on a foundation of truth after starting with lies. Outside their window, Nairobi hummed with life. The clinic stood lit up below, still serving patients at 11 p.m. because that's what community healthcare meant. Their rooftop garden was full of herbs and vegetables and hope. And in their bed, two people slept peacefully, no longer haunted by what they'd survived, but grateful for what they'd built from it. Together, always together, choosing each other, with full knowledge and open eyes every single day. Kwa haki na ukweli, with justice and truth. That's how their story ended, and began again, and kept beginning every morning, with the choice to love honestly despite everything that tried to destroy them.